Hey, good morning, and thank you for being here for our weekly fire recovery update. I'm grateful that today we're joined with Tony Raines from FEMA. He's the Deputy Federal Coordinating Officer at FEMA, and I'm really grateful for you being here today, Tony, and I'm grateful for FEMA Administrator Gaynor visiting the canyon with us this last weekend. We had a really good tour this last weekend with Administrator Gaynor and with our federal delegation. We made a number of comments, and we sort of pointed out some priorities that we're focused on. Number one priority is getting our people back into housing in the canyon in some form or another. And the governor recently requested a housing mission for Oregon for people whose houses have been destroyed. We also mentioned on that trip that our radio infrastructure was badly burned in the fire, and our first responders depend on this infrastructure, and we asked the Oregon Office of Emergency Management to prioritize our efforts to rebuild that critical radio tower infrastructure for emergency services. And then finally, this last week, the commissioners and I sent a letter to the governor asking her to prioritize household hazardous waste cleanup in the Santiam River watershed. We're looking at right now a situation where if we don't prioritize this and we don't move fast to clean up these household hazardous wastes, they could wash into our water, and that could affect the drinking water throughout the Santiam Canyon. Finally, we did release our right of entry permit for people whose homes have been destroyed. There are two options. You can sign, one option would allow right of entry specifically for household hazardous waste. This is done at no cost to the homeowner, and the federal and state government will not bill insurance for it. The second option is to do household hazardous waste and to do total cleanup of your property, what they call ash and trash. We're still working through the details on that. So I'm going to stop with that as far as our update goes. And Tony, I'd like to introduce you and allow you to sort of talk about your perspective after seeing the canyon and sort of what people can do to move the process of recovery forward here in Santiam Canyon.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you, and it's good to be here. My pleasure. Wish you were under different circumstances. We did, with the administrator, look at the area. We've conducted, when the emergency declaration was given and then the expedited declaration was given, we understood very clearly up front that this was massive devastation to the state of Oregon and multiple counties. And so we rolled our people in. Currently, right now, we have 376 federal staff here in the state and working virtually to support the state with assistance. To date, 7,936 people have applied for federal assistance. We've dispensed out over $16.5 million under the individual assistance program. To bring that a little bit closer to home, 1,144 citizens of Marion County have registered for assistance. And that's quite a big number. And so we're looking at that. The SBA has approved 59 disaster loans so far for a total of $5.5 million in assistance. We have activated and approved the Disaster Unemployment Assistance Program for the state. So if someone was made unemployed because of the results of the fire, they can apply for assistance just as if they were applying for regular unemployment, and that's good until October 23rd. We are looking at disaster case management because we know for the foreseeable future, and we're here for a while, that we're going to be working with people to help them recover through this process. So we're looking at activating disaster case management and the crisis counseling program. The state did apply for the crisis counseling program. It is under federal review right now. I believe it was conducted on the 5th of October, and we should be hearing the results of that review and hopefully move forward with that program also. What I would say for the citizens of Marion County and the state, if you were affected by this fire, please apply with FEMA, 1-800-621-3362 or 1-800-621-FEMA. If you don't like using the phone and you're a high-tech person with your iPhone, you can apply with the mobile app, or you can go to disasterassistance.gov. If you don't have technology available to you, you can actually meet with our disaster survivor assistance personnel at their locations throughout the county, and they will help you in that registration process. You're going to get on the phone, answer a few questions with some folks, and they'll call you back. And based on your damage, we hope to be doing a lot of the inspections virtually. So we're not going to have to keep going out to a site to look at something. We'll do that virtually, try and help people out as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Commissioner Montano, do you want to talk a bit about cleanup effort?
Well, you pretty well went over them already. I don't have anything that isn't repetitive, but I will do it just again. So there's two steps and forms to fill out the commissioner showed. The first is a right of entry form that'll have to do with the household hazardous waste. And that form's available, and I'm sure you can find it in the county website, but it's mcwildfirerecovery.net where you can get that form. And I assume the second one too. The second one is the actual removal of the ash, and there's some changes that or concerns about insurance being billed. So we just really want people to do this process right. We've got a quick turnaround, October 16th, and the more we can get in, the better, and get it going. And then the commissioner also talked about, but I just really want to highlight it, not only want the forms in, we want the work actually done. And so I'm not criticizing, I'm not trying to put ourselves ahead of anybody else, but the county's really trying to make the case that we're trying to protect something super valuable here in the Santiam River, a watershed, and we need people to look and make it a priority, and people at the state, federal government to at least get in and get that cleaned up. I don't want to be in line in this case. I think it's more critical here than other, and we're going to try to make that case.
We talked a little bit about maybe flagging drain fields or septic tanks.
Well, I think, Brian, would that be better for you? But there's been lots of questions about septic tanks and when the cleanup happens. I'll just leave that to our Public Works Director, Brian Nicholas.
All right, I'll pick it up from there. So, Marion County Public Works, we're leading the county effort to collect rights of entry for the household hazardous waste and the larger ash and trash debris cleanup effort within the county. This is one of those things that, despite our best efforts, folks are frustrated because the need to get that in place is so urgent that we couldn't wait to have every answer to every question, fully vetted. We needed to get this process going, knowing that questions would come up and we'd have to answer those questions. So, and we've gotten a slew of questions from property owners. I'm going to hit some of the highlights, some of the biggies. The first one that we've gotten is just the question of who is responsible for the cleanup of household hazardous waste, asbestos, those kind of things on private property. And the simple answer is the property owner is. However, the program that the state and EPA have teamed up on, the statewide cleanup effort, is the program that's available from the government to help people take care of those issues. So this is the big program. We've been getting a lot of questions from renters. Hey, if I'm a renter, do I need to sign up? And only the property owner needs to do the right of entry to be a part of the cleanup process. However, we are telling renters, yes, get registered with FEMA. There's still assistance that can be available for renters. May look different than the assistance that's available for property owners, but get registered. You can't get assistance if you're not registered with FEMA. Some of the biggies. Can I be present when EPA comes and inspects and removes the debris from my property? And the simple answer is no. In fact, this, I think, caught people in the Paradise Fire cleanup by surprise, that people that had returned in RVs to be on their property were asked to leave, and not just vacate themselves, but take their RVs and everything, that all that equipment and material needed to be removed, because EPA can't do a large-scale friable asbestos cleanup and assure that all those surfaces that people would return to, if they left their RV there, there's no way the EPA can guarantee it wouldn't be contaminated with asbestos when people returned. So that's something that folks do need to be prepared for. If they've come back to live in an RV, we're expecting EPA is going to tell them that when the cleanup comes, they're going to need to vacate the property during that time. People are asking, will they be notified of when their specific property gets cleaned up? And we've been working with the state, and the answer is yes. They'll be feeding us information, project updates on where they're at, and we'll be maintaining a website that people can go to and they can click on their property to see the status of the cleanup. So we'll be working on that. A lot of questions about tree removal. And this is one of those where the details matter. Will trees be removable, danger trees be removed as part of the Phase 2 debris cleanup? And the answer that we've got is yes, if those trees pose a danger to the cleanup effort. So if you have a 5-acre parcel with damaged trees, the cleanup crews are not going to go clear cut properties and clean and deck the wood. They're going to focus on what's right around the burn structure and what poses a hazard to the structure and to the folks that are doing the work there. People don't have to worry about clearing their driveways and providing access. The cleanup crews will do that. And the other one is, will that wood be left on site so I as a property owner can salvage that for firewood? And the answer that we're getting from the state is yes, that we can arrange for that to be. We need to pick one or the other, a general approach, and we're going to leave the wood on site for the property owner to salvage on their own. And then probably the biggest question is septic systems. A lot of concerns. We've heard a lot of concerns after the Paradise Fire cleanup that inadvertent damage to septic systems was something that property owners complained about. So we're trying to put together a plan where we can provide some supplies to property owners. Property owners sometimes are the only individuals who know where their septic system is laid out on their property. So the idea is we want to provide those materials to property owners and they can go flag the perimeter of their septic area. Now we're still working with the state and the debris management task force to confirm that that's going to be the best way to do it. But we're trying to put a program in place where we can provide those materials and people can flag those locations for themselves. So there is still a lot of work to do to flesh out all these details. What we're telling people is if they're not sure, we still have a week and a half before we need to get these rights of entry in. So we're doing our best to get those questions answered. We will be posting a frequently asked questions page on the county website where people can go to get those large-scale answers. And if somebody calls our helpline and we don't have the answer immediately, we'll take their information, we'll call them back when we do have the answer. So big takeaways here. We do have a right of entry helpline established, so if you need to ask questions about the process, the phone number to call is 503-365-3140. And in addition to the website that Commissioner Brantano cited earlier, if you go to any Marion County website, look at the bar at the top of the website, you'll see the words Wildfire Recovery in red. Click on that, that'll take you to the very same information.
Thank you. Commissioner Cameron?
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for the details. I got an email here, just looking it up at 9:24 this morning. This is a kind of example of questions that we're getting from people. I know you're all probably busy, but you need to know how very frustrated with information or just complicated method of finding valid information about cleanup of our home is. And we're going to give some more websites and the details for this, and we'll respond to these. We're trying to respond to everybody. Yes, I found the right of access form, and I am going to fill it out, but we are hearing lots of talk, for instance, and this is the kind of stuff we need to really warn people about. At least 3 homeowners have said they've already, quote, scraped off their debris and are ready to rebuild, question, question, question. How could they have done that? Where could they have taken it? What about EPA testing? Number 2, a local man says if we pay him $500 and he gets a group of 6 people, he can get the whole EPA testing debris removal done long before the county and FEMA get around to us, question, question. Is that legit? I don't know what to do. I want to be sure we are doing the correct thing. Why not have a meeting at Elkhorn Fire Station ASAP to specifically address questions directly? It would be extremely helpful. And it goes back to what you just said. We don't have the answers to all the questions, but we do have the answer to a guy who says for $500 and 6 people, he can get your EPA stuff done. That's probably not legit.
That's probably not legit.
And there's a lot of scammers out there, and I just know that people are frustrated, and as I am, being somebody who's displaced from my home, fortunately, it didn't burn down, but I've got damages that I've got to deal with, and there's no water in Detroit. But I want to, and we'll respond to these people. We have continued to respond to them, and there's a lot of misinformation on Facebook. But if you've got somebody that says, they can do it for $500 and you get them 6 people and they can get your EPA testing and debris removal. That's a scam. Unless they're a certified, legitimate certified contractor who has been certified by the EPA or DEQ to be able to do this, they're not capable of doing it. As far as the people that scraped their properties off and where they took it, I think those are the kinds of, I'd love to know who those people are, and, you know, we could probably go back and ask them where they did take it. And they may have put it someplace. I know our transfer station is not supposed to be receiving it right now. I think Coffin Butte has been very, down in Corvallis, has been very cautious about who is bringing what and where is it coming from. So I don't know where they took it, but that's a concern that we all have. And that wasn't even on my stuff I was supposed to talk about, but that's the type of thing that we need to get the word out. And as you said, be patient. We're trying to answer all the questions. As I say to people about COVID, when they have all, you know, want all the answers, we've never been through a pandemic together. And this is our first case that we've ever gone through a wildfire disaster like this in Marion County to this degree. And we're working closely with the Lynn County Commissioners to try to see if we can make sure we're consistent. And we're so thankful FEMA's here and the experience that we have. I'm going to go over some statistics. These are approximate stats, but we've lost approximately 630 homes that have been destroyed, another 128 homes damaged. So put that in perspective, Lynn County, there's an article in the Democrat Herald this morning about their losses and what they're doing, and we are going to be continue discussing how we're going to handle this, but they've lost only 10% of what we've lost. So they've lost between 70 and 90 homes. We've lost closer to 700 homes. 128 homes damaged. Other structures, we've lost 19 non-residential structures that have been destroyed. I know probably there's probably 7 or 8 of those, or 10 of those are on Main Street in Detroit, Oregon, the whole Main Street other than the post office and half of a hotel. Number of vehicles lost, we don't have an accurate count yet, but we think there's probably exceeding 150 vehicles that have been lost or destroyed. Number of people have displaced, approximately 1,890 individuals have been displaced from the wildfire in Marion County. And we have resource centers set up at the Anthony Hall for clothing, food, supplies. FEMA representatives are there, and the San Am Service Integration Team. And we also have our behavioral health and DHS and family building blocks at Anthony Hall. State and Community Center, FEMA Individual Assistance Program, will be open soon. The Maryland School, which we toured with FEMA, the administrator was there with us on Sunday, and FEMA will be opening an assistance program there soon, but I also heard that maybe they were trying to move that place maybe over to the Gates Community Church. I'm not sure. But also at the Gates Community Church, which is really a well-run and has done a lot of things up there for clothing, food, supplies. And we'll have additional services such as DS, San Am, Service Integration Team, and Marion County Counseling Service next week. I think that the biggest thing is, and the other thing is that I wanted to mention the Detroit shuttle cars that I think since last week there was one more that was added. And I'm looking up on TripCheck, and this is what ODOT's TripCheck says, updated 10/6/2020. There's a 7:30 pilot car that departs Detroit down to Gates. There's a 9 a.m. pilot car that goes up from Gates to Detroit. There's an 11 a.m. pilot car that returns from Detroit to Gates. There's a 1 p.m. pilot car that departs from Gates to Detroit, and there's a pilot car that returns from Detroit to Gates at 6 p.m. So people that need to get to Idana or Detroit need to know what that schedule is. And we probably could post a link, I don't know if we have, to Trip Check or.
We do.
So, have we done that? We could. Those are some things.
Thank you, Commissioner. Jillian, are there any questions this morning?
We just have one, and one person from the community is asking, what does asbestos have to do with wildfires?
Brian, do you want to handle that?
Well, most of,
Repeat the question.
oh, yeah, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Okay.
The question is, what does asbestos have to do with wildfires?
So until actually as late as 1982, there's still some construction materials slipping into the system. Construction industry, as late as the early 80s. If you have a home that is older than the 1980s, or components of your home older than the 80s, very likely that the insulation is asbestos containing and it's highly friable. There could be others like floor tiling and ceiling tiling and even some concrete mastics. Contain asbestos, and once a wildfire goes, when it's like a fibrous form, like insulation in the wall, it's always friable, and those friable particulates get into your lungs, and that's what causes lung damage. In a wildfire, it's particularly dangerous because then it not only is it exposed because the structure falls down, and where the material may have been contained in a wall, now it's out in the open, it can get blown around, that sort of thing. It doesn't burn. So it doesn't, fiberglass insulation, it'll melt and turn into, a solid puddle during the fire. Asbestos doesn't burn. It just becomes more friable when it's exposed to heat. So it's an inhalation hazard. And if you did have asbestos insulation in your home and now your home is mostly ash, it's in the ash. You stomp on it, that dust that comes up when you disturb it is asbestos, friable asbestos containing material, and it's very hazardous to the lungs.
Thank you. And Tony, did you want to add anything to that?
No, sir. Outstanding answer.
Okay, very good. Well, I just want to reiterate how grateful we are for you being here today and for everything that FEMA's for our
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.